in Europe, we tend to have this joke of people flying to Turkey and coming back, with all their hair transplants and everything, etc. On the planes from Turkey, everyone will be like having a
Yes,
bandage around their head, and that's quite a common joke, like in the UK and I'm sure in several other European countries.
yes.
Welcome to this episode of the MedTech 101 podcast. And today I've got an exciting company here. Well, I actually have the senior director from Venus Aesthetic Intelligence, which is a company based in Toronto, Canada. But Debby, who I have here today, Debby Tavares, works from Montreal. But it's going to be quite exciting to talk about some of the stuff they do because they have like all kinds of things I think a lot of people will need to look good, like products that work on their hair, products that work on the body, products that work on the facial. But today in particular we're going to be focusing on the hair sort of like technology they have to help people with their hair transplants, etc. So without really delaying it too much, welcome to the podcast, Debby.
Thank you so much for having me. So excited to be here with you and have this opportunity to chat and have you learn all about the exciting things that are happening in the aesthetic world right now.
Yes. So without even like delaying it a lot, because I realized you've spent about just more than 8 years at Venus right now.
Correct. Yeah.
How is your career been there? And like leading up to that, just to give a quick introduction to the guys listening on the podcast right now.
Yes. So my original background was in actually in finance, I should say. So I started my career in finance. Business was my first initial foot in the working industry. I loved fashion. I ended up working for a large corporation and internationally for fashion in franchisee management and fashion buying, managing their our franchise partners all around the world. Our my portfolio was about $90 million of the footwear industry, where I made sure they had the right product at the right price, the right inventory, and the marketing support as well. So from there, I moved to aesthetics, which was again, all about beauty and confidence and making us feel better. So when I shifted to the medical aesthetics, it was also business development. So I worked directly with our customers that purchased our medical aesthetic devices. So I helped in making sure they were successful with their business, again, through utilizing our tools in marketing and post-sale support, making sure they had the knowledge to sell the products to their patients. So that was my first entry to this industry. And then I've shifted to marketing specifically downstream. So after a product launch, that's when I take over with my branding team and my digital team, and we make sure that our sales field has everything they need to be able to promote and sell the product, as well as the end customer. So it's B2B and B2C to make sure they have everything they need to be successful and sell their products with our in conjunctions with our practice development team who works directly with the account. So I'm kind of that liaison to make sure all the marketing needs are met, and as well as the brand development of our company.
Nice. That's really good to hear. And just for the audience, before we went live, I was just complimenting Debby on how stylish she is. So clearly, a lot of the fashion concepts that you learned have sort of like been carried through to Venus now, which is also focusing on aesthetics and sort of like using technology to do that. So just out of curiosity, then does your team only focus on the sort of like the hair, sort of like technology equipment you have, or is it all technology equipment you guys have?
Yes, so it's all of the technology. So we have hair, body, and face. So all that has to do with medical aesthetics in non-invasive techniques. So hair removal as well as hair restoration. So that's more on the medical side as it has to be managed by physicians. But that's the Venus hair section, and then the aesthetic section. We have 7 different products that really target head to toe from fat reduction, skin tightening, skin resurfacing, and really anything that has to do with aesthetics.
Wow, wow. And just a quick question. And these are all like FDA approved devices,
Yes,
correct?
FDA. We also have EU. We're in 60 countries actually, to be specific. 11 different direct markets, and
Wow.
Health Canada approved as well. So all our products, we have the approvals needed for the countries we are in.
Nice, nice. That's really exciting because in Europe we tend to have this joke of people flying to Turkey and coming back, with all their hair transplants and everything, etc. On the planes from Turkey, everyone will be like having a
Yes,
bandage around their head, and that's quite a common joke, like in the UK and I'm sure in several other European countries.
yes.
But just to focus then on the device we're going to be talking about today, the Artas IXI, which is basically like a technology that sort of like harvests hair follicles because that's how sort of like hair implants are done. They have to harvest hair follicles and then sort of like implant them. Like, what could you tell us
Correct.
more about this particular product you guys have?
Yeah, so the Artist Robotic is actually the first and only robot in the world that does hair transplant or hair restoration. It has AI technology, so it's a machine learning robot as well. So it takes the error in the manual work. So we call this robot really a solution to make sure that the patient gets the best outcome for the investment that he's doing in this hair transplant or hair restoration procedure. So because it has the AI learning, because it is a robot, it never gets tired, right? So a surgeon might get tired doing the transplant. Is such a delicate procedure, so it has to be precise. When you're implanting a hair follicle, it has to be at the right angle, and it has to also protect the other hair follicles around the space, right? So in order to make sure you're implanting it and protecting the hair follicles around it, unfortunately the naked eye cannot see what's under the skin, right? But this robot does. It knows where to implant the follicle so it grows in a healthy manner, and it protects the hairs around it, right? So it does things that unfortunately a human can't when it comes to something so precise, or a procedure that is so delicate and precise, right? So in that sense, there's integrated cameras in this device. There's 3D operations. There's it analyzes the space that it's implanting, and again, when it is extracting the healthy hair, so we call it the donor hair, because again it's the robot doing it. It does it in a way that it protects that follicle when it's removing it. So again, if you're comparing to somebody that might be doing it in a manual fashion with a handheld device or element, um, it's very easy to transact that follicle, and then that follicle will die. So we know men, they every follicle is going to be important for them to keep and make sure it survives once it's transplanted, because
Yes.
it's just so valuable. You cannot recreate those, unfortunately. So we want to make sure that the patients will get the best results with this type of technology.
Nice, nice. That's really good to hear because like I'm getting I myself am getting to that age where most of my friends are starting to have sort of like receding hairlines, and we're just talking to each other like to say if people should enjoy their hair whilst they still have it. So I'm kind of happy to have mine. But I can imagine a lot of people that will basically be experiencing hair loss, etc., are keen to have a technology that will have a higher clinical efficacy. And just to add on to what you said, you're basically talking about how this technology is sort of like enhancing the sort of like the capabilities of the surgeon. They don't have to get as tired. They don't have to feel as like maybe the concentration in one area is higher than the other. Because from what I saw online, and I'll be putting pictures of what you guys have online of this Artis I hope I'm pronouncing the name correctly.
Yes, perfect.
Is is that it kind of maps the sort of like your hairline, etc., in a sort of like personalized way. Like it kind of takes into consideration the shape you have. So it's actually quite intelligent, and it's kind of promoting that sort of like beauty and that sort of like better hair concentration, and good implantation, etc. And I guess maybe that's one of the limitations that currently exist with the traditional sort of like aspects of how like this surgery is usually done.
Yeah, just to add to that, because it's also the robot is doing the bulk of the work, the doctor actually does not need to stay there the entire time. He could leave his nurses, take the lead, keep an eye on the screen on the robot, to make sure everything is happening, as it should. And he could just step back. He could step away for an hour or two while this is being done, and come back at the end when it's kind of the final steps. So it's great because it's also delegable for a doctor, if he has obviously the right team to support him. So that's a great factor or feature, I should say, that our
Well,
physicians are really, really, you know, um, attracted by, right? Because their time is so
yes.
valuable. They could go do, a few injections, they could do small procedures while somebody else is doing that, while the robot is kind of doing that transplant.
Sure. And that makes sense. That makes me wonder then as to think what this ATIS IXI is going to do to the market. Because, for instance, in countries like the UK, where like the NHS, which is the National Health Service, sort of like the social welfare health service the government provides to everyone in the country, is sort of like overwhelmed. And if you can save time from a doctor if you can free up a doctor's hands in any way, when you put this on a national scale, it's saving essentially millions, if not billions. Sorry, I kind of hit my phone. It's saving millions, if not billions of dollars or pounds, in the country, and that's really exciting. Then and just But I'm quite fascinated around that. I didn't know that the doctor would leave the machine be able to operate on themselves, or the machine be able to operate itself. Um, but like, how do they make sure that the machine doesn't go, like in the wrong direction? Like, do you guys have a sets of engineers and everything that you guys have done to make people reassured, with like doctors listening right now?
Yes, well, I mean, when you get obviously your training, it is actually a pretty complex training. We have a preceptorship of 5 days where we fly the doctor and a team member, or they could bring multiple team members with them, and they really get trained by world class physicians in our facility in San Jose, California, where they
Oh,
see a life surgery, and we really explain all the steps. That is required to know and delegate also this robot. So because of the way the technology is set and the way, I guess on the scalp, it's protected by some what we call fiducials, where the robot is targeted to that space and will follow
wow,
that grid. It can't start going outside of the grid. It can't
wow,
start extracting follicles that are not predetermined, in that
yes,
space. So it's very high technology, and we could probably talk forever about it. But
wow.
it is obviously, I mean, there's never been an incident where the robot started removing follicles where it shouldn't. It's extremely smart, and some of the videos, maybe we could share. You'll see exactly how that works and how the robot kind of identifies what follicle it's going to go capture, and it goes straight to it. I mean, it's pretty simple at the end of the day, but because the
Wow.
technology is so sophisticated and it could see all the way through the skin, there's really no danger or anything wrong that could really happen here.
Wow. That's really fascinating, and sort of like the biomedical engineer in me is really kind of excited to hear that, because I think this is not only just a good science in the sense that it's doing this for hair follicles, but it's also a good testament to what AI is now capable of as to how far we're moving forward. And it's and AI is not, from what this sounds like, it's basically not replacing the surgeon. It's just basically helping the surgeon to become better in their job, which is really exciting to hear that. And just to ask more about the training, since you mentioned the training that you fly the doctors there, would you say right now you guys are flying the doctors there from all over the world when they get this kit, or do you have other training centers as well in different parts of the world?
Yes, so the one that I'm referring to in San Jose, California, is for our North America surgeons, and then in our the other countries that we operate, they have their own ways of doing these preceptorships. So it's a little bit different when it's internationally, but the one specifically that I'm mentioning is in San Jose is for the North American physicians.
Well, well, no, that's amazing, and that's good to hear because I asked the question just to reassure, the doctors listening in Europe, which make majority of our listeners on this podcast, that they don't have to worry about flying to California if they want to use the Venus
No.
devices. The training can also come close to you, which I think is quite fascinating, and then it takes me back to sort of like the things that I wanted to talk about in terms of like some sort of like psychological impacts of hair loss. I mean, I can only give a testament from what I've seen from my close circle, but I'm sure since you're working with this, you meet sort of like clients who need this device a lot more. You meet a lot more people than I do. What would you say in terms of what has been the psychological impacts of hair loss, essentially?
Well, obviously, hair loss is unfortunately something that happens. I think it's one man out of two suffer from hair loss, and even women actually with other conditions start to experience that too. So it really is life changing for the people that go through this because it's an automatic transformation where they look, 10 years, 15 years younger once they restore their hair. So we've had patients, contact us directly, and just the confidence that they gain from having that hair back is really, really so inspiring. And so, we feel happy that we see these changes and these people that they, a lot of them, let's say if they're going through, personal issues in their life, separations, or even sometimes medical conditions that they've had, and they've had some sort of hair loss, and it hasn't regrown the way it should. To see that transformation is really so beautiful and so inspiring. So it is really a big impact, especially for men, right? Because they don't have too many things that, unfortunately, like the women, we have makeup to enhance ourselves, we have the lashes, we have fillers. Men, it's really their hair, right, that gives them a change in their confidence if they want to do something to improve themselves. So that's probably what I see the most and I hear the most when I have these conversations.
No, that's really inspiring, and it makes me think of the first company I worked for. As I was saying earlier, they have a medical device that basically prevents hair loss during chemotherapy. So that's the take that I had kind of seen
Hmm.
this, but I never really seen this from like sort of like an aesthetics side of things. So it's quite nice to hear your
Mm-hmm.
your perspective on that, and yeah, definitely, I think. For men, it's we're very limited, and I know like most men, when their hairline starts going back, they just either choose to get like a bald head, to just
Yeah.
shave their head every day in the shower, and
Yeah.
or alternatively, they have to try save up some money, and sometimes this can be like several thousands. I don't know how much it may cost in Canada to get a hair transplant, but I know, for instance, in the UK, it's something like maybe £7,000 and above, etc.
Okay.
Which I
Yeah.
think in dollars is about, let's say, maybe just above close to $10,000,
10, yeah. Yeah, it's
something
a
like
it's a
that.
good it would be a pretty good hair transplant for that amount.
Yes.
They
Yes.
it goes by the amount of follicles that are being transplanted, usually the
True.
fees, but it could go as low as like 7,000 to 11, depending
Yeah.
on, like I said, how extensive the surgery is.
True. And obviously people, not a lot of people will have that money to spare. So like it makes me wonder like how like the artist IXI is gonna sort of like impact the pricing of like hair transplants. Is it gonna make it cheaper? Is it gonna make it more expensive? I personally think that it's going to make it cheaper, which is going to be good. I think it's good news for a lot of men to hear that, especially when this technology becomes more world spread and it's almost on every single continent, etc. Since you guys are really like in 60 countries. And just to come back to another point you mentioned was how it kind of rejuvenates people's mentality to say, you know what, at least I got my hair back, I got my youth back, and I've seen a lot of men as well, like some older men and everyone like feeling happier about that. But I don't know if you guys have done also like some studies to consider like how also maybe perhaps how it might also impact the surgeons delivering the hair sort of like transplant and restoration, etc. Do they feel better when their patients are happier? So it's not just making the patients happy, but I'm sure the surgeons are also getting happy because they're getting happy customers. They're getting more word of mouth references.
Yeah.
Like so. I don't know if you guys looked at that.
Yeah, well, for sure. We have a practice development team that works closely with all our physicians as well to make sure they're successful with the robot and the hair restoration business. So this is a whole new avenue or revenue for them where they really have, like I said, the opportunity to have this amazing modality to serve a huge market and bring men to their practices. So a lot of these surgeons, sometimes they're plastic surgeons, they do a lot of female targeted procedures, and now they have this opportunity to have this whole new line of revenue with men. So the husbands of these wives, sometimes if they see the ads in the clinic, if these women that are getting these medical aesthetic procedures, they want their husbands as well to feel the same confidence they do. So just that on its own brings patients in. And then I mean, the success rate is extremely high. Our real stuff reviews is um, 91% worth it rating. So I mean, their patients are always happy with the results. They bring their friends, and then it really it's a type of procedure that if someone is interested in it, they just no reason not to move forward with it because the results are there. The protection of the hair that's being implanted is there, so those hairs will never fall off again. So that's when you're transplanting donor hair, this is hair that doesn't fall off, so it's there for life. And it's
Nice.
really it's worth every penny for a person when they know this is a permanent procedure, right? So they don't have to go back and redo it. They could
True.
go add more hair if they want, as they continue to age and they lose hair somewhere else. They could go back for a second procedure to fill in the new loss, but that transplanted hair will never lose, it will never fall off again. So it's
Nice.
definitely worth the investment. And a lot of these physicians, because they do other procedures with female that could be similar price tags, they have payment structures set up, and it's usually it's easy for the patient to be able to afford this.
Does the like artist IXI, the Venus machine you guys use for hair restoration, hair harvesting, etc. If you guys looked, have you done any studies to check like how it impacts the recovery time? Is it a faster recovery compared to traditional
Yes.
methods? Or
Exactly. That's the great thing about the robotics because it's a follicle unit extraction. So it extracts strictly the follicle. There's no linear scar on the back of the head with somebody that would do a strip procedure. So the strip procedure is where they remove the hair in the back. They take a strip out. They they
Yes.
step away with that strip, extract the follicles, and then take those follicles to transplant. What the robot is doing, it's taking each follicle one by one, and
Well,
it's just created that micro incision, which is extremely tiny, and the healing is just really like you have any little, micro cut anywhere. So it takes within a few
well,
days that scab is already formed. You obviously you want to protect it like any other type of slight open wound, but again, it's minimal. It's a few days of being careful in that space when you're sleeping or things like that. But it's really minimally invasive, even where you're transplanting, because the robot needle is so small and it's just doing that micro incision from the extraction and also from where it's implanting on the top of
well.
the head. So it's really, you can wear a hat actually immediately after, as long as you're not touching where you have those transplanted micro incisions, like I said. But I mean, it's
Yeah.
really the recovery is really quick.
Nice, nice. That's happy. I'm happy to hear that. The reason why I'm happy to hear that is because the importance of minimum invasiveness from sort of like a medical point of view or a biomedical point of view is that the less invasive something is, the less chances of infection, the less chances of like maybe having to go back again, the less
Complications.
chances of scarring, exactly, and scarring because like a lot of people like sometimes are kind of left with scars which they don't want to have, then it's now becomes another issue. You may have to go back in for another procedure, etc., complications you're talking about. So that's what makes it special, minimum invasiveness, and it's sort of like precision, and it's amazing really to look at the robot, or not just the robot, the machine, because it's more than a robot now. It's is that it looks like something out of like Star Wars per se. If you look at it like on the website, the image of what it looks like, and it makes me want to ask, because from what I've noticed, depending on different markets, companies tend to have different pricings and also like branding approaches. Is this the same case for you guys as well? So for people listening in Europe, if they wanted to buy it, is there like a European price? Is there American price? Is there like an Asian market price? So how do you guys juggle those?
Yeah, we still have our suggested retail prices across all
Nice.
our products internationally. We don't want it to be, extremely different from one place to another. I think it's just, it's it's a more, I guess, for our integrity. We don't
Yes.
find it that it would make sense to have pricing all over the place. So we do have some sort of protection where we guide all our distributors and our partners internationally to respect the guideline that we provide in terms of the pricing for the treatments as well, but the device
Yeah.
itself when we are selling them.
Nice. That's really good. You say that because the reason why I asked that is because I've noticed with like in previous sort of like interviews I've done and like on the podcast or even at uni, looking at doing certain case studies when it comes to what they call like health economics or whatever. Like pricing in the US is very different from pricing in Europe, for instance. So I'm happy that you guys, from a business point of view, you're trying to keep it the same. Because in the US, the prices tend to be a lot higher because there's a lot of middlemen in between the manufacturer and the patient. Whereas in Europe, because most of the stuff is government subsidized, a lot of the stuff goes down. I'm not sure if I'm sure it's a similar setup in Canada, because in Canada, you guys also have like some sort of like social welfare, like healthcare, etc. So because of all
Hmm.
of that, it kind of impacts the price of a device, and some
Okay,
companies have to change like business models. So some European companies that were trying to battle that, what they did was they ended up sort of like creating a sort of like pay per use business model for the US. Instead of
okay,
selling the device, they just sort of like ask the patients to pay when they use it that one time so that they can
I
maintain the
see.
prices in the US. Whereas in Europe, they're happy to sell them because that way then it's still kind of affordable. So different business models for different markets. But yeah, I know I'm looking at the time, and I know you're gonna have to go soon. But I want to also then take this opportunity to just also sort of like ask you about like future like developments like happening at Venus, because I know you told me it was the Artas IX, and now there's the Artas IXI. And I'm sure there's more in the pipeline. Like, could you briefly tell us what that means for us as consumers listening to this?
Yes, so Venus, Venus AI, as we even call ourselves, because that's where the direction of the company is. We are extremely innovative company. We are always looking at improving or enhancing the products that we have, and what is the best way is really to start developing when it comes to machine learning and aesthetic intelligence, as we call it. We're more about making sure that we have the latest technology. We are always doing extensive research, so we manufacture in San Jose, the robotics and our other medical aesthetics. A lot of them are produced in Israel. That's where we have our development center there, which is really the gold standard of these types of devices. Is where the technology is the most advanced, is there. So we are always looking at what's the latest things, how can we do things better, how can we be safer and more comfortable for the patient. So our innovations that are coming up will be expanding on the robotics. So we want to integrate some of that into the aesthetics as well, not just the hair transportation. Again, just to have that safety factor, the efficacy, the preciseness that we get from a robot, and also, like we mentioned, alleviating some time off some of these physicians that want to bring more modalities or more services to their patients, but just don't have the time or the resources. So, things that are more easy to delegate, or that run, under some sort of robotic system. So that's where direction is. We want to make sure we are always ahead of the game and bringing these wonderful technologies first to the market.
Nice, nice. That's good to hear. And I think a lot of people are happy to hear that like a lot of the development is happening quite quickly, and people are like sort of like happy because they not only do they have like better equipment that's coming, but there's more like sort of like market research going on to see what's probably needs to be prioritized more than the other, and people's needs can be met. But in terms of the future, do you think this is going to become more mainstream? Like, what's your thoughts? From just as an individual working there for the last 8 years, what have you seen that you would say this is going to be like the future of sort of like aesthetic procedures, or or anything in particular that you have noticed that you think maybe the audience might like to hear?
Well, I think right now it's all about regenerative aesthetics. That's really the technology that everybody's talking about. We want technologies that are going to naturally regenerate our collagen, reinforce our elastin, so we don't, as let's say women or men, we don't need to get any invasive procedures with like toxins so I mean Botox, everybody knows what that is, or fillers, but having technologies that will naturally enhance your skin from within. So technologies like that are resurfacing, where it stimulates the regrowth of new cells, um, um, or new blood cells. It brings more oxygen to your skin, so you have healthier skin. It rebuilds fresh skin to extract your scars, your wrinkles. So anything that's regenerative, and we have actually patent technology of radio frequency with pulse electromagnetic fields. So we know magnetic fields is really a regenerative type of technology. So that combination is actually very unique to us. So I think people are just capitalizing on all of that, those technologies and procedures that will, like I said, naturally regenerate what your skin needs to be healthy and kind of remove all these imperfections that we have. So, moving towards more of that, I think, is really what we're going to be seeing. People are going to really start to promote that and see, on the skincare side as well. So that's more the topical type of products, things with stem cells, again, to regenerate your skin within, is really probably the direction that this industry is going.
Nice, nice. That's good to hear. And when I was preparing for this sort of like interview or this discussion we're having right now, a lot of my like female friends were really excited about this because
Hmm.
a lot of people like traditionally have been told that if they want to change something, they have to sort of usually do surgery. And most people are asking me, like, the technology you guys have at Venus right now, like, how good is it versus traditional surgery? Like, because obviously no one wants to go through the recovery process of being, like literally opened up a little bit by a surgeon. And if you can, whilst if there's the option to do this non-invasively. So what would you say, like,
Exactly.
what the products you guys have right now versus traditional surgery, which one is what, how do the results differ? I mean, if I can ask it that way.
Yeah, of course. I mean, we've seen some phenomenal results from, as somebody as young as with, acne scars and suffering with acne, from someone who's, severely wrinkled with, even like acne scars, as well as just deep wrinkles. Um, Really, the cellulite you're talking about, like skin laxity, it could be from postpartum, sometimes after maternity, after having a child, we have that skin laxity. Cellulite is actually something you can't really treat surgically. It's very difficult. There is invasive ways now, but again, a lot of these things are temporarily. So when you're talking about medical aesthetic devices like ours, where it really, like I said, it re-stimulates your collagen, tightens your elastin fibers. All of that regeneration is yours to keep, right? So there's maintenance procedures to keep it up, but you're getting all these treatments or these results non-invasively, where the difference is it requires a little bit of a longer time frame because you have multiple treatments to get those results, but you're not getting yourself in a surgical position or where there's more complications, anesthesia, and all of that. So somebody that is, I guess, very advanced in their skin conditions, if they want quick results, really, surgery will be their option. But anyone that doesn't want to have surgery and they have that patience of a few months to go through these series of treatments, they could see really phenomenal results. What we could do from like the skin resurfacing, stimulating the collagen, tightening those elastin fibers, that combination that we have actually a patent combination called Tribella, which is, well, not patent, but I guess the combination is proprietary, where we've um, touch the tonality of the skin, which is the age spots, the tightness, and as well as the texture. So it resurfaces the skin texture, the pores. It clears up
Oh,
the pigmentation and tightens the skin in one treatment. So somebody that does
well,
those three together, and they do three of those a few weeks apart, I mean, the results are really outstanding. So
well.
it's really come a long way, and there's really no need to have surgery when you especially the younger you start and you start preventing, and then it's really amazing because you're really delaying that aging process.
True. That's exciting, and I've actually taken down some notes right there for myself. For things I should start doing right now before I get much older. But yeah, it's exciting to hear that, Debbie, because not only are you guys sort of like making it non-invasive. Was the next question I was gonna ask you was, what are the side effects of using the ATIS, IXI, or some of the sort of like the Venus sort of like products you have. But obviously, I would say if someone is patient, willing to go through several rounds of this treatment, they get that kind of result. So you'd say maybe it's not as fast or fast appearing as a traditional like surgery, but
Yeah.
if you do it through time, you do get those results you want, and etc. But
Hmm.
are there any sort of like side effects that might come from any or like of these products, like that will be different from what you'd get from surgery? Like, I don't know.
No, actually, it's a complete opposite. It's extremely safe. Most of these treatments are safe for all skin tones as well because we don't have lasers. Our lasers are safe for all skin tones, whether it's for the fat reduction or the hair removal. So that's really great. It's really about the technician, utilizing the device properly with the right protocol. But other than that, if any qualified, certified physician or clinician could very easily manipulate all these devices. And like I said, there's so many protective features that it's almost impossible to cause any damage with these non-invasive devices. So they're safe, they're comfortable, and like I said, it's just it's really where as a woman, or even, I mean, anyone, I would never opt to do anything invasive, knowing that there's so much out there that is non-invasive, and you can get very similar results.
Nice, nice. Now that's really good to hear, and I'm quite optimistic about this. The market for this is going to be massive as
Mm-hmm.
people start to look for ways to make themselves look more, more attractive, more pretty, etc., or more handsome. As we go in a way that delivers the least amount of pain possible. And I know you're mentioning some sound waves for sort of like electromagnetic using ultrasound to sort of like remove some fats, etc., and everything like that. I think that's really nice. It just also shows the power of science and everything. And yeah, and like I've been really happy to have you today, like on the podcast. But I'll just give you like a chance to say anything more you want, because I know like the time that I asked or gotten with you, it's really kind of run out. But I don't want to cut you short. If you've got more exciting information to share, as I said, everything you've mentioned, I'll be like putting those links below, like this episode for people to listen to, or to read or to watch, so that they can also get in contact with you, like on LinkedIn, or by like sort of like approaching the company to order their products, etc. So yeah, any like last additional things you'd want us to know, or that's everything?
No, I mean, I think we covered quite a bit. So just more on
Yeah.
the international scale, just so when you are trying to, let's say, connect with Venus Aesthetic Intelligence, that should be the handles that you look for. Venus.ai is our US site. It might be a little bit, you might be redirected somewhere else, but just, send us a message through our LinkedIn profile, and we'll direct you to the right place, because we do work with, like I said, 11 direct office internationally, and we are in 60 countries. So there's definitely a place for everyone to be able to offer these treatments. And don't hesitate to reach out to our page on LinkedIn, but even to me directly, it would be my pleasure to have a conversation, if you want to speak, to how we work in marketing specifically, and what we provide, on an international scale as well. So
Wow, nice. That's really good. So yeah, thank you very much for coming on the MedTech 101 podcast, Debbie.
thank you.
It's been a real honor to have you today. I really enjoyed this, and I learned a lot of things.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure to meet you and have this conversation.